Hey guys, welcome to Traditional Bow Hunting Wilderness Podcast. This is Jason Samkovic, and today we're going to be talking about single bevel broadheads here and what I think of them, kind of the truth of it. Are they worth it? Are there benefits to it? And I've been shooting them all year this year. I killed 9 animals, 9 deer and hogs with single bevel broadheads, and we're going to take a second and kind of break it down and talk about these a little bit here for you so it all comes into perspective and give the real world views of what I think, what I like, what I don't, where I stand, will I use them again, what is the setup of them. But what a single bevel broadhead is, I'm going to use this one because it shows it better, but on a double bevel broadhead like you have right here, you can see that you have a bevel on both sides. So it basically comes to a point like this is what happens. On a single bevel broadhead, you can see, and again, I don't know if there's enough light there for you to see, but you can see that you have a bevel on one side of that head versus a bevel on both sides. The other side is flat. So on this one, to show them to you in perspective, a double bevel has 2 bevels like this on each edge. A single bevel has a flat side with 1 bevel like that is how it basically works. And it gives you sort of this shape if you look at it from the end view as you're staring at it. Here's another example of a single bevel. These are actually the ones that I do shoot. Right here, this A-boy or big bonehead, but you can see that light hit there on there. You can see that single bevel on there. And then on the other side, you can see that it's flat. It's not there is no bevel on the other side. So it gives that single bevel profile is what you're actually getting out of it. And there's reasons for that. There's reasons that they make them that way and they want them to do that. What the concept is versus a double bevel, when a double bevel goes in, it is going to penetrate in a straight line like this. It is just going to whoop, slip right through. A 3-blade would give you a 3-blade would give you a Y cut like that. Okay, a 4-blade would give you a cut like that. That's what you end up getting are those concepts. Well, a single 2-blade will give you this straight line slice. A single bevel 2-blade. Okay, this is just a double-bladed 2-blade one here, but when you take that single one and you put that bevels in there, this broadhead wants to twist. Okay, it's very important, and I've said this in other videos where I talked about single bevel, that you want your bevel angle to match your fletching angle. So if you're using a left wing feather, you want a left wing bevel on there as well too. If you're using a right wing feather, you want a right wing bevel. So they match so that your arrows are spinning by your fletching in flight the same way that once that arrow hits and twists in by the broadhead, they're both going in the same direction. Because if your arrow is spinning this way and then when it hits, your broadhead wants to twist this way, you got to go in like this and then trying to back twist and it loses itself. But if they're both spinning like this, hits and then it keeps spinning that way. So you want to match your bevels. Now, with that said, with that twisting force with a single bevel, I'm noticing you get with a single, you get this S-shaped cut. Okay. So when it actually penetrates that animal, when you look at the side of it, instead of seeing just a straight line cut, you're seeing more of an S-shaped cut. That is that broadhead twisting as it goes in, and when it hits that animal, it is twisting through and it creates that S-shaped cut on there. Does it make a big difference? I'm noticing that it does, and I'll give you some examples and explain why here in a minute. But with a D-shaped, with a double bevel or 2-blade, my cuts were always like this. This is what the whole shape looked like, just a oval like this. That's how it is. It's a slice and then the skin pulls itself away and it ends up being a cut like that. With the single bevels, my holes look more like this and they're bigger for the same thing. Now see, that's one advantage I have of doing this testing is I went from shooting, that's not on there right, also let me make sure it doesn't come off on me, but I have the benefit of shooting side by side, which I've been shooting a double bevel 1.5 inch wide broadhead for the last 20 years, now switching to a single bevel, same exact size of 1.5 inch wide broadhead. Since I love my 1.5s, this gives me very unique testing on these because I'm shooting the same exact broadhead in shape and size. That's important. Where most people, when they shoot, go to a double bevel, they're usually going to like a tough head or something like that. That is not, it's more of a 3-to-1 ratio. They're not apples to apples between a double bevel and a single bevel, and I'm using exactly the same size again same exact size of a double bevel and a single bevel, which is really nice, again, from the fact that I'm matching apples to apples. So my cuts with this one end up looking more like that. My cuts with this one end up looking more like that. And I tried real hard to kind of put it about what I would say appropriate size of that hole would be. So you can see the much bigger size hole that I'm getting out of this one with that twist factor over the hole I'm getting on this double one, okay? So I'm noticing it. Not only am I noticing it in the actual height of the animals, I'm noticing it from what I would call, what I want to say is gut pops, okay? So sometimes on a lot of these animals I shot, I'm shooting them quartering away. And when I'm shooting them quartering away, that means I'm usually coming in back here and exiting through the shoulder on the other side, but I'm hitting gut on the entrance side, or there close to, okay? And when it happens, what I'm noticing way more now this year than I have before is when I find that animal, that entrance hole side is clogged because of the guts, like I have intestines and all kinds of gut matter, everything bulged out of that hole and clumped up there, and it's actually clogging that hole. Is it good? Is it bad? It's okay, because like I said, I'm bleeding real good out the other side, so it hasn't been a problem too much, but the only way for me to start noticing more clogged holes is because the holes are much bigger. That's the only way this stuff fits through there. Where in the past, even with a 1.5 inch wide broadhead, but a double bevel, very rarely did I ever get anything that would clog that hole up. Now, the skin shifts and things move back and forth, and you know, there's a lot of things that can impede blood. But very rarely did I have intestines hanging out of there that just jammed together and balled up and kind of sealed that hole and were sticking out of there. I've shown some pictures. I might even inset a couple here for you to give you some examples. But I very seldom ever got that with a double bevel broadhead because that hole just did not open up big enough to let that stuff come out. The holes now with that single bevel are so much bigger that I'm finding that happening more and more. In my opinion, it's a good thing. And the reason I say it's a good thing is because my animals are traveling a lot less and they're dropping right there. So I'm very happy with that result. I'm getting a much bigger hole for the same exact size broadhead, but I'm getting a much bigger hole. So I'm really impressed with that aspect of the single bevel concept. I also do like how they perform on bone a lot more. Now, a lot of people say that that's advantages to them, is that when they hit bone, they twist. This twisting effect, because of the angles of those bevels, okay? Again, with that long, steep bevel that you saw on the single, this is what they look like. Well, when that hits, it wants to twist. It's going to twist, and when it goes in. That twisting factor, when it goes into bone and hits, it's not going straight through and trying to just punch right through like that. It is going to come in and hit and twist and snap that bone and break that bone apart. And I noticed the difference. The first deer I killed with a single bevel broadhead this year ended up coming through the shoulder blade on the entrance side, going all the way through went through the shoulder blade, went through the ribs, came out the ribs, and then hit the femur right here above the elbow, and it sheared that femur right in half. It broke that bone completely in half. Never have I seen anything like that happen before from what my bows are. I've never done that before. So that was my very first ever experience with single bevel. So I was kind of impressed already. Too early to give the vote of confidence yet, but I kept using them all year, and so far, like I said, 9 animals down. Very, very impressed with these heads. I'm very impressed. I'm not going back to a double bevel head. Were the doubles good? Yes. Is a single better? Yes, in my opinion. Do they cost more? Yes. There's pros and cons here we'll get into, so don't think that this is the almighty thing. But in my opinion, the benefits really are there, and I'm really impressed with what they do. So they are going to give you more penetration on bone. They're going to give you bigger holes through the body, through tissue and damage like that because of the twisting effect. And you're getting bigger blood trails, which, like I said, I did have a couple that clogged, but that could have clogged, you know, I mean, it was a gut shot anyway, you know, it was an entry of a gut shot. I had the whole other side blowing blood everywhere, you know, so I wasn't concerned, but it was interesting to note that fact of having that gut hanging out on these things. So, but it just goes to show you, you're getting that much bigger of a hole that stuff is able to come out of there. So in my opinion, it's a win-win. That's a bonus. You know, if I put the arrows where they're supposed to be, then it doesn't make any difference. If I put the arrows where they're not supposed to be, this much bigger of a cut, much more damage, I believe is helping me. One of the pigs I killed this year was one lung and gut. Okay, and then one of the other pigs, I've killed 3 pigs so far this year. One was one lung and gut, the last one I did. This first one that I killed this year was 100% gut shot. And you guys saw that in my videos and stuff. That pig was gut shot. It made it 30 yards and it was dead. And it was, I mean, done, dead. That's pretty impressive. Now, I did wait till morning to go find it, but it did not make it more than 30 yards, bedded down, and was found dead right there. So, and then it was a one lung and gut hit, made it 157 yards. You've probably seen that in the other video, my second pig video of this year, if this comes out before or after that, but it's you'll see it in a video. But that one I actually showed my on X where it went 157 yards from where I shot it to where it was dead. I got to it 2 hours later and it was already stiff. It was already stiffened up. So it was a one lung hit and gut. It did have the gut coming out of there on both of those 2 pigs. On the entrance hole, or on the entrance or exit side to side, it was coming through gut. It did have that intestinal parts coming out of there clogging that hole, but I still had good blood. I still had both pigs and I had them both down really fast. So I'm attributing to the bigger wound channel, the mass destruction that was going on in there, and the devastation in that working in my favor. So that's an absolute advantage. The downside to these is when you hit them through the shoulder, there's definitely, there's some good meat loss there. Okay, I noticed that on, now again, they were bone hits too on both of the two, well not both of them, but the first 2 deer I killed with a single bevel head were both through the shoulders. They caused some pretty good, I'll bet I lost another pound of meat from that shoulder that I would have not normally lost from all that twisting action and all that destruction and everything that happened in there. Am I disappointed with that? No, not at all, because it killed those animals quick. And I also have killed a lot of deer in my life that were one lung hit deer that have lived for 24 or 48 hours. Some of them I never found. Again, I live here in snow, okay? And some of you guys that follow my podcast know that I spent a year, about 10 years ago, whatever it was, 12 years ago, I was going 20 to 25 feet up in a tree thinking that was better. I one lung shot 4 deer in that year. I recovered 3 of those deer, 1 I did not. But the 3 I recovered, I only recovered because of snow. That was the advantage I had. Because one of them, those deer, I came back 3 different times that next day and kept jumping that deer alive. And then it was the next morning, the second morning, that I was able to jump that deer alive, and it was so weak though it couldn't stand up, and I shot it again. So one lung hits have always been, and you've heard me say it many times, the worst thing you could ever do. There's a one lung hit deer. Okay, worst thing you can accomplish. Worst kind of hit there is. Because they're going to die, but they may not die for days. Well, the deer that you saw me, that deer that I killed in Missouri, that you also saw on my videos, the one that spiked that I stalked for those, for over an hour and a half and had crunchy leaves, and I ended up getting a shot right on the ground. 18-yard shot, but that deer was actually even higher up than I was, level-wise, because of the way the hills were. But I shot that deer, hit it right tucked in that pocket. You see it on the video. It's right in there, and it comes out right here. Ends up being a one lung hit deer. Now, I thought I pinwheeled that deer, game over, blood sprayed everywhere. That deer ran down the thing. I watched it stop and drop down right there. I thought, it's dead. It's laying right there. It wasn't dead right there. I got down closer. The thing got up and ran up the other side of the hill, bedded down over there. Long story short, it ended up being a one lung hit deer. Within 2 hours, that one lung hit deer was completely dead and lost it, and from where he was bedded on a hillside and rolled down that hill. But he was dead in 2 hours. I'd never seen that with a one lung hit deer with a double head. Is that theory of one valuable? Maybe, maybe not, but it is something that I've never seen before. And I've killed a lot of animals. I'm getting up there 150, 160 animals, and I'll bet there's been 20, 25, 30 of them that have been one lung hits for gut and one lung, whatever the case is. And never have I seen them die that fast as this one did with a single bevel broadhead. So take it for what it's worth. For me, it means something. So I'm very impressed with the single bevel head aspect. Now, sharpening them. It is easier but more complicated. Okay, easier but a little more complicated. What I mean by that is that on a double bevel head, I'm going to bring this bigger one over here too, just so you can, because you can see the bevel on here. But when you look at the bevel on this one, this double bevel, and I'm going to see if that'll focus here for you in close. I'm thinking it does. But see how little that bevel is right there, that shiny silver part, how small that area is that you have to sharpen. Now let's look at it here on this one and see how big that is on this one. Where are you going to be at? Look at how big it is over there, and look at how wide that section of blade is there that has to be sharpened. Okay, it's due to the thickness of the steel. These is insane. Now, what that does though, is that causes a couple of issues that you have to pay attention to. See, when I'm sharpening a double bevel head, because it is such a small edge like this, okay, I don't have to worry that hard about maintaining that perfect angle to sharpen that. Is not that complicated because it's small. When you have an angle that is like this, okay, like this, like a single bevel is, I have all of this distance here that I need to make sure that I am maintaining that perfect angle on. If my angle starts to go a little bit this way or a little bit this way, I end up with cattywampus or rounded blade edges. See, this is good. This is that edge that you see here, and it is very important that you maintain that angle of what that bevel is on there when you are sharpening it. If you start cocking your file or whatever you're doing, you end up rounding like you're seeing here. You get, instead of being that straight, I'm going to just erase this thing here because we're just getting messy, but you end up having a rounded, so you want it to be like this, but you end up making it more like this, okay? See the difference there? Because you're moving that file or your sandpaper are rocking in different directions as you're doing that, and you're not getting that correct angle. That becomes a problem, okay? That's one thing that I noticed right off the bat. I have to be very precise in how I'm doing that. So until you know what you're doing by hand, or until you are very skilled at sharpening by hand, use a guide with these. What I mean by that is use a KME sharpener. There's a bunch of these other ones out there too that are angle. You know, the clamps that hold it got the little roller wheel, so you can take it on your piece of sandpaper or your file, but it holds that at that perfect angle so that that is set for you. It holds that at exactly that bevel angle, and then you can push that across and sharpen it and maintains that angle. It is important for you to maintain that angle. If you do not, you will round that, it'll be messy and a pain in the butt. Not only does it get messy as far as getting that perfect angle, but it also gets messy because these are carbon steel. They're going to rust, okay? These bevels that you see on here, they're nice and shiny right there. They, in your quiver, they are going to start to get rust spots on them. It's a part of the game. All broadheads do. But in order to remove those, you need this surface flat. Otherwise, you are going to be fighting like crazy if that thing is rounded, trying to hit every part of that round to try and actually clean that rust off there and make them nice and neat. It gets to be kind of a handful. So it is important that you maintain and you keep that bevel angle solid, not rounded. Rounded, bad. Straight, good. Recommend, again, using a KME sharp, a guide, or something, or at the very least, use a sandpaper block or something like this, or a file like this, but something flat like this. I've shown you how to make these about, I don't know, 8-9 years ago. I did this full detail on making these. So if you look at my video from 8 or 9 years ago on how to sharpen broadheads, I teach you how to make these. They cost about $1 and they're incredible. But when you put that head on there and you lay that on that thing right there like that, you want to match that bevel angle right on there. So you tip it up till you feel that bevel hit. Okay, and once it does, then you sharpen, okay? Come back, lay it there, tip it up till you feel the bevel hit, sharpen. So what you're doing is putting it on there, tipping it till the bevel is correct, then pushing and pulling. But you need to maintain that bevel that's on there. If you do not, you will end up rounding it. Now you can do that with a file as well too. So if I take this and I take my file, I can do the same concept, it just takes me longer. Where with my 2 blades, I can just start wrenching across there and get going really fast and get it done. And because it's a smaller, less fragile, less exaggerated bevel, so it's much easier to work on these these double bevel ones. Again, like I just showed you. So on this, I can sit here and just roar across that thing, boom, 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 and have it done. On this one, I need to be more cautious, and so what I have to do is, as I hold this, I take my file and I need to line that up and feel that get flush on there. Okay, I can't just start running it. I need to set it on there and even that out to where it flattens out right there. That's the spot. I am now working that whole bevel, and then take my time and do it. So every stroke I put it on there and I make sure I have that bevel right. It's important that you do that, okay, because otherwise you end up rounding it. So they're not harder to sharpen. They're easier, they're just a little more complicated in the fact that you have to be so precise on that bevel side. Now, the easy part is you only sharpen half of what you would sharpen on a double. Because a double bevel, if it is a double bevel head like this, you have to sharpen this side and you have to sharpen this side. On a single bevel head that goes like this, you only have to sharpen this side and then a little brush up on that side. So you really only have to sharpen half of what you would normally have to sharpen. So on the single bevels, you sharpen that bevel side and you get that good and sharp and you feel that burr roll over to the flat side there. Once you have that burr formed, flip it over and then you work that burr just to flip that burr back to the other side. And then once you have it, just a light removal of that burr, and you have that basically done and ready for stropping. So you're doing basically 100% sharpening on the bevel side that is on here as you look at this. So you're getting 100% sharpening on this bevel side and 10% sharpening on this side. Okay, it's just basically a cleanup. So it's very easy to do and they get wicked crazy sharp. I'm not gonna lie. If you follow my social media, I showed you a picture of one of these heads when I first sharpened them, and I was shaving my leg here with it. In that video that I showed, you could actually still see the light coming between the broadhead and my leg. So I was that light of pressure and it was just taking hair off like crazy. So getting these razor sharp is very easy to do. Now, once you have that sharpened with your sandpaper block or your KME sharpener or whatever system you want to use. Me personally, I'm still just using a file. I use my belt sander in the garage, because on my belt sander I can preset that angle on there and have it right just for my main angles. But by hand it would be this file, and again you just rock it till you feel it lay flat on there. When it's flat on there, take that stroke, bring it back, rock it till it's flat, take that stroke at that angle. When I have that preset and ready, you still single bevel broadheads, they love to be stropped. There's no doubt about it. Because it is a single bevel sharpening system, I noticed that they are tremendously happy when they are stropped. So for stropping, you can use flat cardboard. Put the cardboard on a piece of paper. I'm going to use that bigger head here for a second, because again, that bevel's more pronounced. But you take that, put it right on your thing, have your arrow on the back of this. Take that, lay it right on there like you want to, and same thing, tip it up till that bevel lays. When that bevel lays, strop, okay? Hit it, roll it till the bevel is set, strop, okay? And then you're gonna do the other side when you're done too, just drop that side too. But on that bevel side, get that bevel perfect and then strop. Every stroke you're gonna do of any aspect of sharpening this, line this bevel up perfectly to avoid that. So stropping with something flat is good. You can do it also with your leather strop if you want to, same concept. Set it on there, get that bevel, work that bevel, okay? But every stroke you do with a single bevel head requires more time, because you take it and you set the bevel and then do your stroke, okay? Where with double bevel, you're still setting it, but you're a lot quicker and easier. With these, you want that exactly precise to prevent any rounding at all of that where it's noticeable, because you have such a big bevel. Now, when you're done with all that stuff, make sure you're finishing with blue jeans. I've showed you guys this before. You take your blue jeans. If you're not wearing jeans, take this, lock it in, and then you're gonna, strop with this on there, or put it on top of something. You can put this right on this block, this blue jean, and just wrap it right over like that. And then take your head, and then you can strop on here too. But the denim is the ultimate finisher. I've shown videos on that, but you will be amazed what denim will do for sharpening for your final strop. There's nothing like it, and there's no excuse or reason for it, but it will blow your mind. But that is basically your sharpening process for those. For me personally, I go with a file, Once I have the bevel set and the burr formed with the file on both sides, I remove that burr. I go straight to a ceramic rod, couple quick strokes just to even and smooth everything up exactly like I want. And then I'm stropping it on cardboard, and then I go straight to the denim is what I do. But it works fantastic. So sharpening wise, easier, but a little more complicated. And if you're not good at sharpening things by hand and understanding how to keep those angles controlled, get yourself a KME sharpener or any of these other variants. Now there are a lot of them out there that are designed to, with, they're a clamp with a wheel on them that will hold that broadhead at that precise angle of that bevel every time. So I would highly recommend one of those if you don't know what you're doing yet. But realistically, that's my take on the single bevels. Am I sold 100%? The other downside to them is they are more expensive, but they're also a lot more steel involved in them. When you look at these two 1.5ers side by side, the amount of thickness in steel in those, I'm hoping you can see it in there, but the thickness of those blades is insanely different, okay? The amount of steel in there is a big time difference. These are more expensive. Where for most of your double bevel heads that are on the market today, you can get like the Wikis and things like that. I want to say you're about, and I haven't bought them in so many years, I'm going to guess and say you're probably 45, 50, let's say it's 50 bucks for 6, okay? So you get 6 heads for 50. These are double the price because you're looking at about 60 bucks for 3 of these. So you're a little more than double the price for these single bevels. Some way more than that. They can get pretty expensive. These are A. Boyers that I'm using, and I absolutely love them. I love the tough heads. There's a lot of great single bevel heads out there, and they've been out for so long. Like even A. Boyer, these heads have been out since the 90s. I never paid much attention. I've always been a Magnus 1.5 inch wide kind of guy. Well, now there's 1.5 inch wide single bevels, which to me is the holy grail of what I'm looking for. So for me, that's the perfect combination of huge blood trails, massive wound channels, great bone penetrating power, super strong heads, devastation that you want done in fast follow-ups. That's what it is for me. And this single bevel 1.5 inch wide head meets all of my criteria, and I'm going to stay with it. I have more of them on order. I will be buying a ton more of them as well too. Like I said, I have huge faith in them now after this whole season. So that is my take on single bevel broadheads, and take it for what it's worth, whatever you want, honestly speaking too, if you're looking for more of these, if you like that Magnus 1 Classic 2-blade double bevel head like these right here that have been out of existence for years now, nobody's been able to buy them. I sold about, I think I sold 14 dozen of these that I had earlier. Once I resupply my stock of single bevels and I have those in, I will probably sell my other 10 dozen of these that I have left, just because I'll be going to all single bevels. So if you're interested in these, drop me a note, because I sell them. I've been selling them as a set of 6 of them for 50 bucks, so it's a good deal. But I'm probably going to dump out the rest of these ones on there that have never been shot, all brand new. But I've collected them for a long time. But this single bevel 1.5 inch wide, for me, has all the benefits I need to make it worth the cost, worth everything, and I'm switching to them. That's it, plain and simple. It's all I'm going to use from now on. So, hope you enjoyed this video. Hope you got a lot out of it, and thanks for watching. All right, bye.